Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, live and in living color, the top 35 metal albums of 2014. But before we get started, two things. First, the rules. The rules are, of course, that these have to be albums that I reviewed in 2014. There are a bunch that I didn't get to. They're going to have a separate list, the top 10 albums that I didn't get to in 2014. Yeah, that's right. I'm actually going to work a little bit harder for you guys and get some of the albums that you might wonder, well, where's the review? And give you guys my thoughts on them. That's forthcoming. Secondly, we have to address the Cover Killer Nation Christmas Contest. Voting is now ceased. You can't do it anymore because we have a winner. We have nobody who got the top 7. We did have somebody, however, who got 6 of the 7, which is as damn close as you can get. We had a lot that had 5, but only one that had 6. The Neuromancer, congratulations. You are the winner of the Cover Killer Nation Christmas Contest in the Dream Theater live at Luna Park. Super mega awesome box set. Please get in contact with me via either the Facebook page or through YouTube with your mailing address. That way I can get that to you before Christmas. With that, and without further ado, let's make it to the list. The list actually has 37 because there's 2 ties, but we're not gonna, It's still a top 35. Number 35, we have Every Time I Die with From Parts Unknown. Whenever I picked up this album and decided to give it a review, I didn't expect much, but was blown away. A lot of you have told me that these guys are great. I certainly agree. From Parts Unknown definitely delivers. Number 34, Arch Enemy with War Eternal. New singer, no problem. Didn't matter the fact that Angela's no longer at the vocal helm. Arch Enemy is able to bring just bring a new slice to the table and really just a new era to the Arch Enemy name, something that definitely feels a lot fresher, and this is continuing on the momentum from their previous album, which was doing fairly well by itself. Number 33, Flying Colors with Second Nature. The second album from a prog supergroup, it can go one of 2 ways. It can either be excellent, it could really show the band members flowing and gelling together, or it could just sound like the first one and kind of be a disappointment. This was more the former than the latter, and this was one where it definitely feels like Portnoy and the Boys in one of his many solo projects outside of what he was doing before, now that he's no longer with Adrenaline Mob, thank fucking God, is fantastic. Second Nature is a great disc. I highly recommend you pick it up. It's definitely one where they really, really have hit their stride. We might see Mike again, you never know. Number 32, Insomnium with Shadows of the Dying Sun. I had this a little bit higher, but there are a couple albums that just were able to exceed it. But Insomnium is just a band that consistently makes it to these lists, 100%. They just have such a great, great feel for their progressive death metal style, and it's one that constantly gets them right here at the end of the year. If you've not heard of these guys, if you've not checked these guys out, do it. Don't wait. Don't lollygag. Stop lollygagging. I'm shaking you. Number 31, we have Scar Symmetry with the Singularity Phase 1. I think that this would be higher on the list, but I want to see where it goes. It's a great album. It's a great part, but this is one where I must feel like I want to see where the whole goes, and I think that this is going to end up being a great setup, but it's not going to be the best of the trilogy that's supposed to come from the Singularity idea. I'm very excited to see where this goes. I am hyped because this album is so good, but I just think that this is the one that's setting everything up. And that the second one, the meat, is actually probably going to be fantastic. And then the third one's just going to blow them both away. We're going to see what happens in the next couple of years. Number 30, Sun Eater by Job for a Cowboy. A lot of you really thought this was going to be within the top 10. It's a really good album. It's a strong album that shows Job for a Cowboy fully embracing what it is that they've really wanted to become, even at the sacrifice of record sales and perhaps a larger scale fan base based around their original inception and what they once were. However, this is an album that, unfortunately, just doesn't quite recapture the same feel as an Omnivium by Obscura, which was a number 2 on the list. However, this is still a fairly decent record, one that I highly recommend, and really gave a lot of praise whenever it came out. I've just found that I have not turned back to it. It's the reason why it has slipped. Number 29, we have Dark Fortress with Venereal Dawn. These guys continue to just innovate. This is an album where I think if we did a list whenever Elam came out, it would not have... Elam would have been a lot higher. That has nothing to do with the fact that Venereal Dawn being a bad album. 2014 just has shitloads of freaking great albums, and this one happens to be amid the wrath of them. And this is fantastic. This is a band that consistently innovates. Highly recommend them. Let's move on. Number 28, Into the Maelstrom by Big Elf. Another band that I highly recommend people getting into because Big Elf is a great prog band. It's one that is certainly Very, very underrated and underappreciated. They did enlist the help of Mike Portnoy for a couple of the tracks here, which certainly helps. And this is one that definitely feels huge, complete, big, great, grandiose. I saw these guys at Porcupine Tree. They're great live, not to mention this album is just fantastic. The track High is just phenomenal. Number 27, we have All You Can Eat by Steel Panther. The Panther machine just continues to keep rocking and rolling. It's hard to deny these guys. They're just great. If you haven't picked this up yet, definitely do it. This is your reminder. Christmas is coming. Be sure to eat out some pussy. Number 26, we have Kaleidoscope by Transatlantic. Who are we talking about again? Yeah. From this album being able to influence me to finally finish a work that I've been trying to do for the past, say, 6 years, to it just being a strong 100% release from this group, one that definitely continues the legend of Transatlantic and does so in such a very, very vast and dynamic way. This is an album that is a must for any prog fan, for any Dream Theater fan, Portnoy fan, Transatlantic fan. Get the fucking album. It's great. Number 25 is Skeletal Domain by Cannibal Corpse. This is a disc that on many other lists will probably be near the top. I really like this album. I think that this is one that really moves on from where they have gone in the past and definitely adds more dynamisty, more depth, more brutality, does all of this in, a bag of Cheetos. But once again, it's just one of those things. There's a lot of other great things that came out this year. Cannibal Corpse already has the accolade of being one of the most well-recognized death metal bands on the planet. So this is not a slight to Cannibal Corpse whatsoever. Still fantastic work. Still one that you need to get right now if you haven't already. Number 24, we have At War with Reality by At the Gates. The Long-Time Reunion was one that definitely had a lot of people talking, had a lot of people buzzed. Some people were a bit disappointed with this. Others were really fascinated by it. I was very fascinated by this disc. Fascinated at how At the Gates were able to retain that sound and retain that overall angst and just downright evil tone, while at the same time continuing a melodious journey. And it's one that is certainly worth the wait, but I'm looking forward to see if these guys do a little bit more with it. I feel like the second album in the comeback may be the one that really puts them over the top and causes them to redefine the genre once again. Let's hope, at least. Number 23, Black Crown Initiate with The Wreckage of Stars. This is a debut disc. This is a phenomenal debut disc, and this is one that I highly recommend. It seems so criminally underrated considering it's only at 23 on this list whenever I reviewed it so highly. However, this is one that you need to listen to in order to really fully appreciate and understand. This is a band that is really got a lot of talent. They're from Pennsylvania, if I recall, and they also are so very young in their career. I can see these guys making future appearances on this list, much higher locations, even though The Wreckage of Stars by itself is going to, in 10 years' time, be considered to be a classic. Number 22, we have Blood In, Blood Out by Exodus. Thrasher pieces were definitely to be had this year, and Exodus is one that has furthered the recent trend of Thrasher pieces coming and Thrasher pieces being received. Blood In, Blood Out certainly has sparked more than just a couple of controversies, well, the band at least, but at the same time, it's one that's very direct, and also reunited the boys in the band with Kirk Hammett, who was in Exodus a long, long time ago, which is a really, really neat pairing. The album itself is so easy to listen to. This is an album that you can just, throw on in your car or at the house and just kind of get lost in, and whenever it starts back up, you just don't realize or care. You just want to keep listening to Exodus. It's definitely one to revitalize an interest in this band, and it's sold very well, too. Number 21, Sun and Boris with Terrestrials, probably the best freaking dream matchup ever, and it's one that finally happened. And this is one that didn't require a lot of tracks in order to really deliver its sublime and haunting beauty to the world, and they did so very, very well. And this is no surprise. It really isn't. That's the thing. The minute that you saw this was going to happen, you should have recognized and understood that this was going to be a phenomenal collaboration and a great, great disc. This is one where these two groups are able to use what they do, principally, to only further enhance the other. And that's the sign of a great collaboration. Think about what happened whenever Sun collaborated with Boris a couple of years ago. Think about the majesty of that idea. And now think about it with Oliver. Man, oh man. And if I said Sun and Boris, it's Sun and Oliver. I'm an idiot. Wow. I'm not recording this again, so you're just going to have to accept my mistake and realize that I knew what I meant. I just didn't say what I meant. Fuck you. Number 20, we're in the top 20. Killer Be Killed with their self-titled disc, Killer Be Killed. A lot of people thought this was going to be in the top 10 too, and really it's deserving. It would be one that would be deserving, but again, this is a project that I really hope continues. This album really delivered the best of all the worlds of the members that are within it. This is a super group that involves Max Cavalera, it involves a gentleman from the Dillinger Escape Plan, from the Mars Volta, from this and that. Jesus fucking Christ, there's people from everywhere. And the thing of it is that they encapsulate the style from each individual member. There's something in there that will be there for the Dillinger Escape Plan fan, for perhaps the Sepultura or the Soulfly fan. Either that or for the Mars Volta fan. There is something that's in there for you. It's kind of buried underneath a lot of stuff, but it's there for you. Believe me, it's there. Great disc, great collaboration. Hope it continues. I would love it. Number 19, we have Iced Earth with Plagues of Babylon. This was from the very, very beginning of the year, and it's still something that a lot of people talk about. This is a great disc. This is one that I think is a bit underrated, but at the same time, many people, the people that do appreciate this album, recognize what the band was able to do with this. It was very, very tight. It was one that has just a lot of great material on it. They continue on the Something Wicked saga a little bit, and then the originals are able to captivate even further. So there's a nice duality. So those who are hoping for more Something Wicked ideas, you have that there on this album. And then for those who are kind of like Something Wicked, meh, I need the originals, you have that on there, and both of them are great. So there's no real way you can go wrong with Plagues of Babylon. Number 18, Bloodstone and Diamonds by Machine Head. The follow-up to the follow-up is really what you want to call this. The follow-up to Into the Locust, which of course, Unto the Locust rather, which followed up The Blackening. So with each progressive disc, this is a band that is trying to recapture some of that blackening charm, and they have it, and it's there, it's possessed, but they just don't quite have it. It's just not quite, it's a once-in-a-lifetime type of album. It really is. It's a once-in-a-lifetime album. That Machine Head was able to produce in the middle part of the 2000s, but Bloodstone and Diamonds still is no slouch. This is certainly one that's well worth it. Maybe there's a little bit more of a commercial feeling, maybe? I don't know. Some people would say that. Some people have said that to me, and I'm surprised at that, because it definitely doesn't sound commercial. It doesn't sound commercial. Maybe the riffs sound a little bit more, simple, either that or a little bit, easier to digest than perhaps some of the others, but Machine Head was never a band that was overly complex. They were never a band that was doing things that were really just far out there in left field avant-garde territory. This is a band that was able to do great things with very, very basic ideas and tremendously, tremendously alter the metal landscape in doing so with The Blackening. Bloodstone and Diamonds is able to continue that writing style, and it shows that Machine Head still is a relevant band in 2014. Number 17, Overkill with White Devil Armory. This is one that continues the run of Overkill thrasher pieces that has been going on for a long fucking time right now. Overkill still, I feel, is underrated, even though they've really started to get a larger fan base based around some of their recent successes. I still feel this band needs a little bit more help whenever it comes to promotion and just getting out there even more. I feel like a lot more people need to give Overkill a shot, but maybe I am just toiling the same war I've been toiling since the first part of the 2000s whenever I first discovered them. It's hard to tell. Love this album. It's one that has just a lot of great solid endeavors poised within it. Bobby sounds so young at all times. Bobby the fuck. All I'm going to say is Bobby the fuck. I'm 30 and I already sound like I'm ancient. Fuck you. Number 16, Allegaron with Elements of the Infinite. I just destroyed that name because I couldn't help but laugh. But this is a great disc from a band that has been a rising star in the metal community over the past couple of years. And you can definitely tell why. They're able to do such great things with an album such as Elements of the Infinite. They're really able to really use their body and composition in order to do all of the talking and the blending. The blending is fantastic. I really like the blending of the material. I also enjoy the soloing. Just the overall experience of Allegaron's Elements of the Infinite is worth being on the list alone. But then you take, you also add the part that they are really a rising star and one that has been getting a little bit more attention and gaining a little bit of ground. And you start to wonder, what's this band doing that's so good? And you start telling other people, and they're like, you say the name of the band, they're like, the fuck is that? And then you're curious. And that's how things happen. That's how things happen. That's how things are happening. Because this band is springboarding their way toward frontrunners. You just wait. Their next album, they might not be in the top 20. They may be in the top 10. Number 15, Agalok with the Serpent in the Sphere. Serpent in the Spear. Sounds like some sort of cave album. I don't know, whatever. But this is a great disc as well. Agalok never fails to disappoint. Their last album feels like they maybe were a little bit too... They try to do a little bit too much. But this is an album that they kind of go back to what it is that they really do well. And it really fits right in there with albums such as Ashes Against the Grain. Maybe not quite as majestic. Maybe not with the same 10 out of 10 level of precision. The songwriting just may not be quite there. It's definitely not The Mantle. You don't want it to be The Mantle. It's what it is. The Serpent in the Sphere has wonderful, wonderful ideas within it. It has a lengthened instrumental that is just wonderful. You're waiting for lyrics, but at the same time you're not, because you love the fact that this instrumental is so beautiful. And that is one thing that Agalok has always been able to do and do well, and it captivates you through their instrumentals, through their atmosphere, through their unique ability to really conjure emotion through sound. And that's why they're here at number 15. Number 14, Once More Around the Sun by Mastodon. This album kicks so much ass. Really, really love this disc. Hard to get me away from this disc once I start listening to it. And it's only because this band continues to explore. That's fearful to some listeners because they think they're getting further and further away from what makes them Mastodon. But the fact that they explore is what makes them Mastodon. That is Mastodon, because they're furthering their sound even more so. This is one that just applies to so many people, and whenever you look at the cover, you know that if you're a stoner, you're going to dig the fuck out of this. And you do. Even though it's not stoner rock, you're not listening to a Caius record, you're not listening to a Clutch album, but this is still one that has all the crunch, all the vibe, and the metallic effect of a well-polished and designed metal album that has a little bit of prog in it, just a little touch. It's a little touch. It's one where everybody that hates prog but loves Mastodon's like, ew, get that away from me. It's like a creepy pedophile coming up at you, and it was a friend that you used to love, and now he's a creepy pedophile that's trying to give you the little prog penis, and you're just like, no, embrace it. It's okay. The prog penis will not hurt you. The prog penis just wants to be your friend. That's all I'm going to say. Number 13, Carnifex, Die Without Hope. This is, of course, what spawned probably one of the most famous videos of this year for me, because Baby Metal was ahead of Carnifex on the iTunes Top 10, and then, of course, I reacted to Baby Metal and blah, blah, blah. Fuck Baby Metal, this album's awesome. Carnifex's Die Without Hope is probably just one of the most sinister discs that they have in their discography, and it's one that many people will probably argue with me about, but that's alright. I don't care. This one has it all. There's hook, there is dynamisy, there's a lot of great flow. It's one that never takes its pulse off the accelerator. And if you don't have any respect for that, then it's going to be difficult for you to find an album that's truthfully perfect. You need to have an album sometimes that just does not let up, that is unrelenting, in order for it to really be satisfactory and actually, in this case, phenomenal. If this was an album that boasted a little bit more diversity, there's a good potential that that diversity could have killed it. And even though I am a fan of diversity typically, and one that really criticizes some bands for lacking the diversity idea, this is one where the directness works. And we're going to encounter another album like that higher in the list. Number 11. Fuck that, number 12. Because here's the album. Ringworm's Hammer of the Witch. I'm so disorganized, aren't I? Hammer of the Witch is another album that does not take the pulse off the accelerator, and it's one that doesn't need to. This album was a shock. It was an absolute shock. You don't expect, whenever a Ringworm album comes out, to listen to it and immediately think, this has potential to be very, very high on a list. And it's not because Ringworm's a bad band. Ringworm is a tremendous band, but it's not the first name that comes to your mind. And then an album like Hammer of the Witch comes along and just blindsides you and says, hey, fuck you for thinking that way. We're Ringworm. We deserve to be near the top of your list. In fact, if we had it our way, we'd be on the top of your list. And they just back it up with a phenomenal album such as Hammer of the Witch. This is an album that probably many of you passed on by, thinking, oh, Ringworm, whatever. Pick it up. Do it. Listen to it. You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked. You don't believe me? You don't believe me? You're missing out. You're missing out. You truthfully are. Get it. Number 11, finally, Devin Townsend with Z2. This massive, massive double album that was able to blend both, of course, the second part of the Ziltoid, the Omniscient Saga, as well as just a regular album. And both sides of these have their own characteristics that are freaking awesome. But those, I would just watch the reviews. That way you get a much better idea of what each side is able to really bring. However, as an overall scope, great music, a funny story that has lots of great guests, and we have more Ziltoid in the future. We have more coming. What is there not to like? Number 10, Hail Spirit Noir with Oi Magoy. Talk about shocks of the year. This is an album I listened to principally because the title of the record was Oi Magoy. Because I was like, the flying fuck is that? And then it ends up being this ridiculous avant black, progressive, whatever we want to do experimental band that I fall in love with. Oi Magoy is what happens whenever a couple of people decide we don't want to be one specific style. We want to do whatever the fuck we want. This is what happens whenever a band listens to Giant Squid and thinks to themselves, we could probably do that a little better. This is whenever a band listens to Arnie and says, we might not be able to be that fucked, but we're gonna try. Seriously, phenomenal disc. And if you don't know who Arnie or Giant Squid are, check them out too. But this Oi Magoy, all I have to say is, hoi. Damn! This is one of those underground groups that you'll probably have to go through a distro or order online. Do it. And send me one too. Fuck. We're in the top 10. Number 9, Mayhem with Esoteric Warfare. This is gonna get shit. Mayhem's Esoteric Warfare is an exercise in avant-garde, in black metal, and just strangeness. It's off-putting to most. It's very surreal to others. It's one that has a lot of haunting feel, a very haunting feel to it, a haunting charm to it. For me, it is just a very dissonant idea. It's a very dissonant endeavor. It's one that I really enjoy. It's very strange. It kind of gives you a little bit of a cerebral melancholy, but at the same time, just a little bit of that hint of the stuff that just makes makes your hair raise up a little bit on your arms and shit like that. It's hard to describe this album. That's the thing. It's very hard to describe it. But it's freaking awesome. That's the weirdest part about it. It's hard to describe it, similar to Oi Magoy, but it's fucking awesome. It's just so strange and out there. It's just so not what you would expect, but what's kind of been happening with Mayhem lately. Wow. Esoteric Warfare needs to be consumed because it is an exercise. It is an exercise. They assault you for this disc. They assault you. And you like it. I don't know what else to say. Number 8 is a tie. We have, with the Mayhem, there's also a tie there with Judas Priest, Redeemer of Souls. That is a phenomenal, great disc that has, comeback written all over it, and I really think that there's going to be more after this, because Redeemer of Souls is able to really provide us with a lot of great moments, and ones that will really, the single didn't exactly give us much to really talk about. It felt like a Judas Priest song, and that's it, you know what I mean? But at the same time, the entirety of the album has enough on it, and not to mention enough uniqueness to it, that Redeemer of Souls definitely belongs in your collection. It's one that you need. And the fact that I almost omitted it from this list because I saw the 35, I was like, the fuck's Judas Priest? Where's it at? And I was like, okay, I need to stick it somewhere. That's criminal. I should be shot for that, but don't do that because then you won't know who the number 1 person is. Banned. Words. Number 8, we have Desideratum by Ananakrath and The Flesh Prevails from Fallujah. 2 phenomenal works from 2 different sides of the spectrum. And these are ones that you really need to consume in order to understand, because the Nanakarath has been assaulting eardrums, even more so than Mayhem, for quite a long time. And they have gotten this down to a science fairly well. They got some grindcore in here, they got some black metal in here, they got some death metal in here, they got some fuckery in here, there's a hint of progression, there's some industrial metal, there's this and that, in a crock pot, and then they light it on fire. Best way to describe it. And the result is incredible. It's phenomenal. This is strong material. Most people will disagree. Most people will say that some of their earlier works are better. I think this is a band that just keeps getting better. As for Fallujah, talk about a real 360 within a couple of years. We were talking about these guys for a controversy a couple of years ago in a video that's no longer on the channel. And now we're talking about how these guys have put out a tie for the 8th best album of the year. It's a damn good disc. The Flesh Prevails deserves consumption. Now we're to the top 7. Now you can compare with your lists, check it twice, try to find out who's naughty or nice, but we have a winner, one sole winner. And here we go. Number 7, Opeth's Pale Communion. This will get the shitstorm started. Opeth's Pale Communion is so excellent that it is kind of hard to talk about. Mainly because all the Opeth fans that want them to go back to what they used to do get really, really mad and call you a fag and act like just obnoxious assholes. This is probably the album that Opeth has been begging to make for years. This album shows that the partnership between Mike Ackerfeet and Steven Wilson has only led to bigger and better things. This shows that in his soul forever, Mike has just been a 70s prog kid. And the result is magnificent. It's mind-blowing. This is an album that deserves more accolades than it's been given. It really does. But at the same time, I can see some flaws. And I can see where, if they're able to continue in this direction, Opeth is going to be destroying the prog rock genre. And I mean destroying in such a good way. Being the new standard bearer in the prog rock genre. To the point where Steven Wilson will have to say, fuck you, I'm getting Porcupine Tree back together. Fuck off. And then you'll have other groups that decide to crop back up and be like, oh yeah, well, fuck you. That's how it's going. Opeth is going to be invading this territory. They already have, and they're doing it so damn well that they're on this list at number 7. Number 6, Accept with Blind Rage. Who saw the Accept reunion with a new singer going this well? Who saw 3 consecutive great albums and all 3 of them getting better? I didn't. Blind Rage is Blind Rage, but it's one that combines melody. It's one that combines fantastic songwriting. Accept is timeless. They may be immortal. There can be only one. They're the Highlander. Awesome album. If you don't have it, get it. Number 5, Swans to Be Kind. Swans takes what I said about Mayhem and Hail Spirit Noir, and even Nanakarath, and says, really? I can do it even more fucked up. And they did. Massive album. Massive, massive album. 30-minute long songs? You got it. Interesting soundscapes that are ripe with ear-raping noises? Easily one of the most haunting and out-of-control, but yet beautiful pieces of work of the year? Yes. To Be Kind is not kind to a listener at all. But it's something that you respect the fucking hell out of once it's over. And you want to listen to it again. And you do. Damn. Number 4, The Year the Sun Died by Sanctuary. They've only been gone for 25 years. They come back and release an album that makes Into the Mirror Black look like fucking Disney World. I don't know how, but they did it. The Year the Sun Died is the best Sanctuary album that they've done. And there's only 3 of them. Into the Mirror Black, it's a classic. Their first album, Refuge Denied, it's a classic. And then they come back 25 years later, after Nevermore, and they're just like, oh yeah, well, fuck that shit, we can do better. And they do. They did. They came, they saw it, they conquered. They're number 3 on the list. 4, whatever number this is. I don't even know anymore. They're confusing me. That's how awesome they are. Get this album. Number 3, truthfully, The Satanist by Behemoth. Speaking of grand returns, after everything that this band went through, you needed an album like this in order to really get them back into the world and showcase that Behemoth never died. And guess what? They never died, because holy shit, this album has everything that a Behemoth fan could want, all wrapped with a string around its finger to remind them to do it again next time, because there will be a next time, and that should excite the fucking hell out of you. God damn it, this album was good. God damn it, it happened earlier in the year, and god damn it, for a while I thought it was going to be the album of the year, but guess what? These bands came along and thwarted that attempt. Number 2, man, this was a hard choice. Harder than it looked. Really hard. These two flip-flopped during the past week. Number 2, Milana Chesmana by Triptykon. And number 1, Niebla Viscaris with Citadel. I'll talk about both of them at the same time because they were separated by mere increments. Triptykon's second album is Haunting Bliss. It's a masterpiece that shows that Tom Warrior Fisher is a god. He's amazing. The guy is able to do such unique things with sound and really redefine the idea of dark metal. Like the truthful idea behind darkened metal. And it's one that has a sublime depression to it. It's not one that's all hellfire and brimstone. It's one that is going to touch base on some of those topics, but that's not what the whole album's meant to be about. And it delivers resplendent results. It's phenomenal. But it's only topped by Niebla Viscaris, Citadel. It's only topped by an album that is able to take some of the similar idealisms from an album such as, The Faceless' Autotheism, combine it with Omnivium by Obscura, throw in the fact that they're Niebla Viscaris and already have one great album in the books, combine that all together and make just wow. Remember the first time that you listened to The Mantle by Agalog? Or even Ashes Against the Grain? This is similar to that experience. Not because they're bands that sound necessarily similar, but it's the same way as listening to an album that you've now perhaps loved for 10 to 15 years, all depending, for the first time. For the first initial couple of times. This is an album that if I do an end of the decade list whenever we are about to hit 2020, will no doubt be on it. It will no doubt be on it. And it may actually be within the top 3. This album was as close to perfection in 2014 as we got, aside from Milana Chesmana by Triptykon. These two albums were able to brilliantly exhibit what metal in 2014 really had to offer. And they're 2 albums by 2 fantastic bands. Bands that are only within, truthfully, their infancy. One could say that Triptykon is actually just an extension of Celtic Frost, which means they're not infants at all. In fact, they're full fucking grown adults in the music business, getting close to middle age and needing breathing machines and social security. But it's not true. Triptykon is a project that has such a different sound to it, even whenever you consider Monotheists, Celtic Frost's last album. But Niebla Viscaris, they're brand new to the fold. This is only album numero 2. Which means they have a long, lengthy career ahead of them. And, metal gods willing, we will be talking about this band for a long time to come on this channel and on these lists. There you have it. Top 35 albums of 2014. The Neuromancer. Congratulations on winning. Of course, if you're still watching this, send me your contact information. That way I can get your prize out to you. Thank you to everybody who voted. Thank you so, so much to everybody who voted in the COVERKILLER Nation Christmas Contest. And of course, stay tuned for the top 10 albums that I missed this year list, which is forthcoming. Another year has come to pass. I thank you all for being members of the nation, and have a good night.